Great. Well, welcome everybody to Drake's Lounge Australia, 25th of May 2024. Great to see everybody along. I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional and original owners of the land on which I'm on and which other folks might be on, and their continuing custodianship of the lands and their long-term interest in the environment. And we've got a few folks locally today, and as is traditional, I'll try and go around the loop. We'll have our Australian folks give us a bit of an update on things, and I'll pass over to Rich partway through. So I'm just going to kind of pick people that are on my screen in order, and Robert's the first one in Australia that's in my screen there. Good morning, Robert. How's things going, and what have you been up to?
Well, good morning. We're finally back in Australia. We'll be here for a couple of months before we head off for another eclipse in October. So we'll be gone for September, October, and November. So what's happened is I came back and I thought everything would be done, the front of the property and the back of the property, but nothing was done. So it's taken a month, but I finally got part of it done. And I'm in the process of getting the radio telescope in the backyard back up and running again. And in addition to that, sorry. And in addition to that, I'm having parts made so I can, make the antenna trackable. Build, putting together, the bits and pieces for that. And hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll, have the first test of a trackable radio, telescope antenna. Other than that, not much is happening. No new data, but hopefully we'll be back in, providing data again soon. So that's basically it for me.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. So some details on your antennas that you're working on. What frequency range and type?
We're just doing, the hydrogen, the hydrogen with the, it's basically, I put together a scope in the box. I
Oh,
did
great.
that a couple of years ago, and I had one of those. Actually, I have three of them. But only one of them. Well, two of them are ready to go, but I've given one to someone in the Blue Mountains up here, and trying to see if we can put together a long range interferometer. But hopefully I'll get to do that before Ken takes off on his trip around Australia.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah.
I'm quite keen to get some hydrogen going myself, and yeah, it'd be good to see a bunch of stuff from down here and see what the sky looks like.
I did have it working, last, like November, November and December, and did some data and sent it off, to Mr. Klein. But we're also working out of Varuna. We have one of the old folks, antennas, and trying to get together a team to rebuild that. I have the electronics for it. Okay, and I keep wondering, when I did my university studies, I put together an actual receiver, so gallium arsenide and all of that. So I have an idea how to build receivers, but should I build it or should I just go off and spend the money and buy a new one? I see that the Jove antenna system, one of the options for their SDRs is a dual channel receiver. You know, it's spendy, but it's not super spendy. So I've been thinking about getting one of those to have a play with them. You know, so
Yeah,
lots of
that's
things
good.
going on. In addition, I think I have a C star, one of the 50 millimeters. Anyway, I've been out taking some images of the sun. It does quite a good job. I'm impressed with it for a 2-inch aperture device. But in addition to that, for the Dallas, what I did was I have the Corona and the anyway, I have a Daystar, hydrogen, telescope now. I also have, larger versions of it. Okay, but I haven't had them out for several years now. they sit in the attic waiting to be powered up.
Yeah, plenty of sun activity at the moment. So yeah, good to get those out and have a look.
Everybody wants to see pictures of what I see with the, and the corona and that type of thing.
Mm,
But
right.
I don't know if I told you, but the Dallas total eclipse strip, actually got a spectrum of it. I think I showed it, a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if everybody saw that or not, but I did actually get a flash spectrum of the total of the corona during totality, as well as some
Right.
other cool pictures of it.
Fantastic.
Busy, busy, busy. Yep, and we're off to car things in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. So busy, 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 as well as I think next weekend we're off to Varuna. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's the Astronomy Club's dark site. And I've almost got the observatory out there. I've got all the pier and the observatory built and everything. It's just a matter of putting the rest of the tools in it. Like I've got a telescope in it, but haven't had to play with it yet. We're just one step closer to that. Too many projects.
Excellent.
Hopefully,
Any questions for Robert on any of that?
ooh, lucky me.
Oh well, can always come back towards the end. So yeah, thanks, Robert. Hope goes well, and look forward to seeing
Me
some
too.
results. Yeah,
I would like that.
yeah, great. Duncan's next on my screen. If you'd like to give us a catch up. Morning, Duncan.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all well. Yeah, it's been a bit busy. There was, well, I'll share my screen actually, and I'll explain, I think, rather than what happened. I said one of my experiments was quite rewarding. Just going, share. Not that one. Okay, so there should be a bunch of data points in front of you. The central panel, which is weaker pole, that's more me being lazy and having not got around to working out which polarization of the Vela Pulsar I'm actually working on, shows the pseudo flux density, which is a SNR of the weaker flux density. That's not really very exciting. It's got a few bobbles in it, and the variation of the pulsar in flux density in that polarization is just slowly rising as best I can work out. There might be a slow form. Now, the two bottom panels are where it gets really interesting. These are the pulse period and the reciprocal of that, or frequency over yesterday's frequency. And you'll see that around MJD, just 42, I think it's 428 there, 429. There's a discontinuity, but there, that ended up being a pulsar glitch of around two parts per million. I caught late April, early May. And at the moment, we're writing a paper with two other friends of mine about this pulsar glitch. This pulsar glitch was seen by many other telescopes of the world, and it pointed out a real problem for amateur astronomers is getting enough sensors on the ground to at least have three you can access to actually see their data and work out whether that was real or whether you had some sort of gremlin in the system, and that's actually real. The Argentinians have a monitoring program for the Vela Pulsar, because this pulsar goes off, has a glitch around every 3 and a bit years. The last one was back in 21, which caught that one, but that was on a 6-meter dish. This one's interesting because it's on a 2.3, 2.4 meter dish, where we're pushing the signal to noise ratio quite hard to get meaningful scientific data out. So that was really interesting. What is probably more interesting, we go away from that. Oh, sorry, I should explain. You see the discontinuity on the pulsar period, but you then can see this change in the day-to-day frequency of and you get this spike here where it changed. There's a couple of interesting things here. There's probably this data point down below. Well, I can't really say much about that at the moment. We're still working away on that. But
I could venture something there. I guess there's some there are various time constants of the recovery from the glitch. So you're probably seeing the longer term
Yep.
time constant, which I think was sort of several days or tens of days even.
This one's actually a very fast one. I have some access to data. This is not quite up to date. I'm going to find the one that I wanted to show you. That one. Okay. So there are other people, obviously, around the world with much larger instruments and much better signal to noise. But here's what I call the stronger pole. Well, it has been a much stronger polarization. Its signal to noise is about 20 or more. Actually, highest is 24 compared to the weaker polarization. And you can see the top left panel. You see the glitch happened, and then you have these two outlier points down below, and then there's this fitted line I have for the post glitch thing. I asked somebody at the University of Tasmania running I think it's a 26-meter dish, what they saw, and they confirmed that these 2 points actually are real. And this is the glitch went down, it went up, and this is measuring its recovery, and then it sort of stabilized afterwards. I got to say that we took all this data at 800. I took all this data at 820 megahertz through a pretty active ionosphere. So we're a little bit careful about what we have to say. You can see that the delta F on F here has a noise profile. It comes and goes a bit. We pretty sure we know why that does that. But you can still see the very strong upward pulse in here where the glitch went off, and it's even more evident. This data is actually up to date. It's last night's, and then you can see the long-term monitoring program. So there's a little bit of a drop there. That is not a glitch. That's a cable change when I went to dual polarization, and that's still resident in the data because I'm not fiddling around and taking it out. You get warts and all. And you can see the two outlying points which you see over there are down here, and this is the long-term. This is the recovery phase now, and you going to the top panel, which is back to the pseudo flux density. You can see that the SNR here has taken a real dive over the last few weeks. Used to be up in the averaging around 19. Well, we can draw a line through that, maybe 18, and now it's down well below 10, whereas the weaker, what I'd laughingly call the weaker pole, has actually come up in intensity, and it's up about into the 12s, which is quite high for it. So as a result of this and confirmation of the other people had glitches, we published this, and it turns out that this the observation on 430 plus a bit was actually the nearest observation to the glitch itself, and this entire escapade pointed out the fact that one sensor on the ground, one radio telescope, you really need more just to make sure that you're 100% of about what you see. So I've been talking to a couple of friends who live in the eastern part of Australia to see if they can put up dishes at slightly different longitudes and also at slightly different pointing angles, east-west, so we can pick the pulsar up at different times and have a get a bit better temporal coverage. So that was fairly exciting. Yeah, we'll be writing up paper, which well, it's well and truly underway. But the news that that people on 2.3 or 2.4 meter telescopes can actually do good scientific work sort of got into the professionals, who are quite amazed at what could happen when you have a little bit of talent and set the trap for the event. Does anybody have any questions?
I've got a comment there. Well, brilliant stuff. That's just so good to see. And yeah, there are all those glitches coming towards us. So it's just a matter of setting the trap. One thing that you might look at doing with the signal to noise is trying to back out a rotation measure, which you can do by taking a ratio of the polarizations. I guess one thing you probably want to do, if you haven't tried, is trying to check the flux calibration by looking at a source like Fornax or one of the other kind of standard 3C273. I don't know if you can see that.
Nah, yeah, agree. But I'm very wary at the moment of because the system is fixed and moving it. I have to take it back to the exact same position.
Yeah.
So I'm very wary about moving. This is more a social comment than a scientific comment. But what I feel is that this is a really small aperture. There would have been some skepticism about detection. And so I'm making sure that the data is clean as possible, because I've run into sort of skepticism unwarranted in the past about small apertures doing good work. And
that's right. Well, if you can get, if you take that ratio, you might
Yep.
get a rotation measure, and if then you compare that with what other folks might be doing, or the professionals, that could be another interesting demonstration. I did some monitoring of Vela for my PhD, where I worked out a dispersion measure and a rotation measure. And what's happening is that, well, at least when I looked at it last, many years ago, there were filaments in the supernova remnant that were passing across the line of sight to us and giving variations in those over long term. But there could well be something in the environment of the pulsar. And I think the glitch that was seen back in, was it 2017, or the one that the UTAS folks captured in entirety? It kind of showed that.
Yeah, the one where they saw it go pulse.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That did show some variation in the local environment. But yeah, certainly looking at those things, I might drop my my PhD link in the chat here. People want to have a look at what I did many years ago.
So for the people doing, amateur doing this work, this is an example of how setting the trap is actually quite rewarding if you're patient. There's a lot more behind, there's a lot of technical skill behind this, which I've built up over the years, but it's about having a reasonably good clock. And this thing runs off Raspberry Pis and SDR Play SDRs. And basically, it's not finished yet. There's a lot of frequency locking and stabilization to be done. But this is what you can achieve with a modicum of expenditure. And most of the gear, a lot of the fabrication work for it was actually done out of scrap metal. And the dish that actually recorded this was damaged and was just in somebody's backyard. So a soft mallet and a rounded piece of wood took the surface back to being okay for sub-gigahertz work. And it's just the frame that supports the telescope was rusted out, so that got patched quite severely. And this is the result you can get, and this is scientifically useful. So I encourage you to keep on with your good work, and hopefully you will find something like this one day. I will point out this is probably the really only accessible pulsar for radio work in the Southern Hemisphere. It's pretty bright. It's 5,000. It's 5 Janskis at 400 megahertz. It's pretty bright. So that's the average flux density. But you can do it. And the really nice thing in the Southern Hemisphere is that within a band of a few degrees either side of the declination of the Vela Pulsar, which is minus 45, there are about 3 or 4 pulsars that with larger apertures you can actually just let drift through each day and time them. One of those happens to be a millisecond pulsar, but you need a larger aperture than 2.4 meters. Anyway, I think I'll shut up at that point.
Ah, well done. Anybody got some questions there or comments for Duncan? Just the other one I remember looking at was, I can't remember the exact number, 1642 minus 45 or something. I think that's probably one.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a glitching one as well. But with the 15-meter dish I had, that was kind of really hard to see. A lot of integration, and with a small dish it would be quite difficult, I think. But it's worth certainly collecting stuff on any of those.
Yeah. There is another technique you can use, which I've seen, is that there's information you already know about the Vela Pulsar or the pulsar or a pulsar's pulse profile, and it's more like equivalent to radar cross sections for aircraft and helicopters and things like that. That you can do a matching. Well, it's called a matched filter, but we basically take what you know and multiply it against what's coming in and look for the correlation, and that can help greatly to pull signals out of the noise. You have that at prior knowledge, and yeah,
that's a very interesting point. Yeah, that's right. Know a little bit about that from atmospheric measurements. Yeah, good stuff.
So yeah, so this has caused a bit of interest in the professional ranks as well, because they were quite surprised at the fidelity. Anyway,
further comments? If not, thanks, Duncan. Hope it keeps going well. Hope you keeps tracking and keep getting that daily data.
yeah, it comes in every 24 hours. I think the secret to it is I knew about it because I was disciplined enough to reduce the data every day. The data is automatically taken. It's running on a Pi, which is talking to a clock, and it just comes up. Starts at data acquisition half an hour before transit, and just keeps going till half an hour after transit. But it's the discipline of the operator to actually just go in and reduce it, and then I guess be in touch with your machine and know when the machine is actually on song or whether you got a problem. So that's and you go back to this thing about having at least 2 but better off 3 sensors that come up with the same result is much a great confidence boost, because these days we all live in an RFI environment, and things happen that you don't expect.
Good advice.
Or I can, yep. Okay.
Thanks. Roger. Roger's next. Good morning, Roger. How are you going?
If I can unmute myself here. There we go. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
Okay. So I've really got nothing to report, I suppose. Last month I was in Adelaide. I'm back from there. Unfortunately, my building jobs have got bigger this month. I'm about to start rebuilding one of our rental houses that burnt down. Unfortunately, the insurance company couldn't find a builder to come in at the right cost, so we're going to do it ourselves. So that's going to make things even worse, unfortunately. So yeah, nothing really to report. I've still got my SIDS and Radio Joe sitting in a box. I bought all the wire for the antennas, and they're still on a roll. One of these days, I'll build a former and put it up. But yeah, probably not for a little while. Just getting a bit busy. So Robert's off to Wirrina next week, so I might see you there. I haven't actually got here if it's the new moon weekend. He quite often goes up at other times, but yeah, at some stage in the next month I'll go up there. The last couple of months it's been raining, so I haven't really worried about going down there. And I've been busy. I haven't been here for a bit of the time. Anyway, I'll see how I go over the next month or so. I'll see if I can get a couple of these things together and at least see if they work. So, apart from that, probably not much else to report, really. I am enjoying these meetings. It's keeping my inspiration going a little bit. That's what I need at the moment. So, yeah, until next month. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Roger. And yeah, good luck with getting things out of the box. Yeah, it's always good fun to get into that. And yeah, any help we can provide, or yeah, it'd be interesting to see how you go. So
Yeah,
take care.
absolutely. Okay, no worries. Thanks.
Oh, Roger, do you go past Adelaide often?
Well, not often these days. I was born in Adelaide, born and bred in Adelaide, so my parents were there, but they passed away a few years ago. So this time it was my nephew's 40th birthday. So that was a couple of days after Anzac Day. So he's ex-army, so we went down there and partied on for Anzac Day and partied on for his party. A couple of days in the Barossa Valley on the way home, visiting a friend of ours there that's a chef in the valley. So yeah, just really quite a good time. I plan I'll probably go back in November next time. It's my brother's 70th birthday. So yeah, probably once or twice a year I'll go back. So you're South Australia too, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down on the Fleurieu Peninsula.
Nice part of the world.
Yeah, southeast of Adelaide. So
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we can meet up.
Yeah, as I say, back there in November, we'll see how we go.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Right. I'll take care. Joe is next on my screen. How you going, Joe?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm a little bit like Roger, got nothing to report. I've been this past month. I've been involved in all the things, including having COVID twice. So, just recovering from that now, but not a great deal. Well, actually, the only thing I probably do have to report would be we put some signage up for the dark site. We've got an SDR, one of the horns with an SDR connected to it alongside the dish. And I was charged with the responsibility of designing and making up a little sign for people who are just wandering around the place. And that's probably the only thing I've got to show, I'm afraid, at the moment. I got it delivered just yesterday, but that's it there. So
Okay, good on.
And that's about it. It's just a bit of informational stuff for anybody who is visiting the site. So I'm afraid that's all I've got to report at this moment.
Oh, good stuff. Anybody got any questions or comments for Joe? Yeah, good to keep the information flowing to the public there, and just it provides a talking point at the very least, so that people can find out some more stuff.
Yes, that's the idea. It's it'll be put up just as a thing for people walking around the place. They can see it and can hopefully ask questions.
Yeah, great. Oh, thanks, Joe. Oh, all the best for the next month.
Thank you.
Robert's next on my screen there. He might be busy. Don't have a camera view for Robert, so he might be a bit busy there, and might come back to Robert. And Timothy is there as well, but he's driving, so he sent me a message saying he's driving, he's listening in. And hi to Timothy, who's down here in Tasmania. He's our the other Tasmanian here, and we might catch up with Timothy next time or thereabouts. So I guess that might mean that's just me for a little bit, and we'll come back to Robert if he's popping in. So Sun's been very busy, and I've been having a bit of a look at some radio bursts again. My system just keeps on collecting stuff, but there's been quite a lot of radio emission. A lot of it's actually been not in the most favourable time for the Australian sector, but on the 11th of May, there was a very large X-ray flare, one of the largest, well, certainly for the last solar cycle, its current solar cycle. And I just operate a number of SDRs that try and capture some of the radio emission. And this one was kind of interesting because normally my system would see radio emission right down to the ionospheric cutoff, which actually on this day was about 9.2 megahertz. This is the equation that tells you something about the ionospheric critical frequency given the angle of the sun. And that's informed by this parameter here, FOF2, which is the vertical incidence critical frequency that's measured by ionosondes. So they're instruments that are sounding the ionosphere with a swept radio frequency. And in this case, this is an ionogram from the local ionosonde at the time of this flare, and a bit of an E layer down here and an F layer, and the radio waves above this critical frequency are just going straight through the ionosphere and out into space. And then conversely, you can use this to work out the lowest frequency of an extraterrestrial radio source. But interestingly, on this particular event, I could probably see solar radio emission down to lower frequencies than this critical cutoff. And at this time, we were well and truly into this really severe geomagnetic storm that started late on the 10th of May. And in fact, later in the day, we had auroras overhead. I've got a little video here from, or a screenshot from my camera that I run. Aurora beyond the zenith into the north. So folks in the northern hemisphere, think about the aurora in the south of your sky. This is definitely in the north. In fact, this aurora was seen right into the Pacific and parts of Africa, and well and truly mid-latitude Australia, although it was pretty cloudy, I think, in places like Sydney and other. But some of this interesting lack of emission in here, it's not just the sensitivity of my system, it's the ionosphere doing some strange things, and probably also allowing some of the emission to get to the really low frequencies. So yeah, just another example of some of those interesting things. And looking at the critical frequency is kind of an interesting diagnostic of the ionosphere. So I'm having a bit of a play with trying to model what I'm seeing here. That particular flare also, if I can advance the screen here, yes, was quite bright at the high frequency. So I have a Yagi running at 142 megs with That's with a an AirSpy SDR, and I'm also logging the low frequencies. This is kind of interesting to look at. I'm kind of interested in the drift rate of these bursts, and type 3 bursts in particular. And although it's not very clear in here, there is some information on potentially the drift rate of these features. And in fact, that's kind of one thing that amateurs can do, is build up a bit of a database on the drift rate of type 3 bursts. There's still some work to do on some of the fine details of the emission process. So these bursts are what's called plasma radiation. So they're beams of electrons that are moving through the solar corona and emitting at what's called the electron plasma frequency, and that varies with distance from the sun. And building up a big catalogue of these events gives you some idea of different viewing angles. The sun, of course, is rotating. These bursts are seen at different places across the disk, and big professional observatories have done some of this, but I think there's still a role for amateurs in there with some simple equipment to be monitoring these things. Good time now with the solar cycle being almost near maximum, and I encourage people just to even make some measurements of just time series of radio flux at 2 or 3 different frequencies to help make some measurements of these things. The timing accuracy, you need sort of 1/10 of a second sampling, so you need a fairly fast sampling, but the wider the frequency range, that does help to give you some average information. So, yep, that's the sun. Keep looking at it. I reckon in the next couple of weeks it'll get back to being active again as the old active region comes back.
I have a question as to what bandwidth you were using on the 142.
Yeah, so that's 2 megahertz. So that's the full width of the the low end of the SDR.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's using Radio SkyPipe as the logging software, and actually, I think that one it's not using an AirSpy, it's using an RTL SDR. So that's using RTL bridge to Radio SkyPipe, so using the 2 megs. That YAG is just pointing on the meridian at roughly the sun's elevation. I keep changing it every so often. It'd be nice to track the sun. That's kind of one of the next projects, is to actually have something that can kind of track it.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think I wasn't doing any, and I can't supply any data, but I did see a very similar profile come through at 820 megahertz with that similar sort of set of bursts that were decaying with time in their individual strengths around about that time. So that obviously got into my side lobes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, big number times a small number still leaves you a big number.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they were quite bright, so I'm getting 25, nearly 30 dB of change in signal to noise there.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Andrew, this is Richard in Honolulu.
Okay.
2 questions for you. On the first spectrogram, I noticed you're covering a really wide frequency range, and I was wondering what type of antenna you're using. And the second question was, in very general terms, do solar bursts get significantly weaker as you go up, say, into the 2 meter band or higher? Or are they more or less the same strength as you would see down at 20 megahertz?
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, the wide spectrum there's using a loop antenna, and that's using an active antenna preamplifier. It's called a active antenna AAA-1C. Look those up on online. I'm trying to map out the sensitivity versus frequency, but it's actually fairly flat. And I can tell that from looking at some other radio bursts. I'm kind of building up a bit of a catalogue of bursts and at different elevations and trying to map also my beam pattern and also using the galactic radiation as a way of checking that as well. So yeah, it's quite broadband, which is nice. It's a compact loop antenna, and I'm hoping to write something up about this at some stage because it's something that I think amateurs would find useful. I have seen Jupiter with it as well, so it's kind of good. In terms of the radio strength, yeah, some of these bursts, this plasma radiation tends to peak down at the lower frequencies, so you can actually get some good signal to noise at the lower end compared to say the 2 meter band. On this particular occasion, this was quite bright at 2 meters. I look at a couple of different things. The Owens Valley long wave array has some good wideband spectra there, and in Australia, the Learmonth radio observatory also puts online radio spectra. Later on, I might drop a couple of links into the chat there, but that also helps you kind of gauge, you know, the brightness versus frequency. But generally, the plasma emission from these type 3s is quite bright at the lower end, and you can see them right into space as well. Stereo A and there are a few other spacecraft that have the waves instrument, and you can see these right down to a few kilohertz, and there's some good real-time data available on that to give you a bit of an idea. That particular event actually was very bright at the low end, and probably even brighter below 10 megahertz. And I think that's why I was seeing some of that emission right down to the very low frequencies, just able to break through the ionospheric window.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate the information.
Well, that might be us if Robert's there. Or any other Australian folks in the room that would like to give an update. Otherwise, we might pass back over to Rich, and we can always come back if we've got some time.
Okay, thanks. Great job, you guys. This is you guys are really performing here. Well, let's go to down the list here. Preston.
Good evening. I collect data all the time automatically, but I'm not analyzing much of it right now. I've done a little bit of reading about the interstellar medium, and I hope to get in some more time on that. But that's about it.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. Helen. Oh, wait. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Helen. Helen, you there? Okay. Duncan, did you have a question for Preston?
Yeah, as Preston just tweaked my memory, one of the things with pulsar work is what's going on at the pulsar and what's going on with interstellar medium in between. And that's some of the, that causes you modulation in the intensity of the source, and determining where that is and whether it's extrinsic or intrinsic to the source is actually some of the things that I'm looking at. I did some work back in the 1980s where we looked at very bright point sources that showed some sources varied on time scales of months, but others were on timescales of years. And you can see the source strength go up and down. It's a bit like if you think of a pool, a swimming pool, it's perfectly clear and somebody drops a couple of pebbles in it, and then you get the caustics on the bottom because of the refractive index change, the change in the surface. But effectively, you get bright and dark areas on the bottom, if the bottom of the pool was the observing plane. That's sort of what we're measuring, and as we orbit the sun, our view through the scattering screen between us and the object changes. So that's one of the things I'm looking at with the pulsar.
That's neat. One of the things that I'm looking for are good references on the interstellar medium. So if you have any recommendations, it'd be great.
Okay, I'll try and find one. I think there's one by Ricketts down at in the 1980s. I'm just struggling with my memory on this. Down at 150 megahertz region that talks about intraday and intraday variability and longer term variability. I'll have a look around for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Richard Flagg, anything else?
Really nothing else. I just always enjoy hearing everything that's going on down in the Southern Hemisphere, and some great projects. I've been doing a little bit at S-band, but mostly in the area of satellite tracking, in a terrible RFI situation here with tall buildings all around, and so it's really tough to do any radio astronomy, but still interested in the hardware. So that's about it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And your YouTube videos that you put together are extremely popular. They're getting lots of hits, and so you're one of the influencers on YouTube for radio astronomy.
Well, I'm glad that they've been doing quite a bit of work in the Jove program to put together some educational materials, and I'm glad they're being viewed for sure.
Well, yeah, these are on the SARA YouTube channel, the ones that we did from the conference a couple of years ago, 2017, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a while ago now.
Yeah. Okay.
But they have put together some educational videos in the Jove program. I don't know if they've bothered to let you know about them yet. I suggested that Sarah would, maybe put a link on there. Suggested to Chuck that maybe we should let you guys know if there are some additional educational videos. So
could you put a link in the chat by chance?
I could if I remembered it, but I'll let you know.
All right, thanks.
Sure thing, Rich. Thank you.
And Helen, I missed you a little while ago. I think I lost you. Oh, I think she's offline. I think last is Tom.
Yeah, good day or good morning or good evening, whatever is appropriate to everyone. Very impressed by the pulsar work. So a real thumbs up for that. That's impressive work, and I'm sure lots of people will be taking note of it. And other than that, I'm just listening here, and like I say, I am surprised by your success with such a small instrument. I'm sure that many people will be very impressed by what you're doing with such a small instrument. Anyhow, that's all. Unless people have questions for me, I'm just here to listen.
All right, and Tom's our treasurer, so treat him nicely. He does a very good job, and been really happy with you. Okay, I'm going to share a screen here. There's a new update. In fact, I just sent it to the board. So let me show you guys that, let's see. There it is. Okay. We are going to roll out, hopefully by next week. This is a new on-demand store. In fact, my daughter put these designs together. She's a graphic artist and a brilliant person. And so these are the online demand. So the way this works is once she puts these designs together, we don't do anything after that. We basically collect. You order with these guys, they collect the money and they send us the profit. And we don't have to do anything else after that. It just automatically happens. So we got a couple of designs going right now. I've actually got this coffee cup, shirts, etc. And this is the graphic they're going to use for the Eastern Conference. Let me see if I can zoom out on that. Okay, so that's the Eastern Conference graphic they're going to use. So why am I bringing this up? I would like you guys the Australia group to come up with a logo that we could put the SARA Drake's Lounge Australia on some shirts and coffee cups and stuff. We could put it in the store and you guys could order stuff. But my daughter can actually put the graphics together. We just need ideas, maybe some graphics. I'm thinking like the globe, I think Andrew was thinking like the globe upside down, I even had the globe upside down and an antenna down instead of up. I don't know, but you guys come up with something that if you come up with ideas and graphics, we can put them on some of these shirts and stuff, and you can order them. So that's my challenge to the Australia team is a graphic that you guys be proud of. We can put a couple graphics there, but come up with a couple graphics that we can put on this stuff. Okay.
One other idea there, of course, is that we can see, a certain chunk of the sky at the same time from US and Australia. So maybe something that has that in mind. But anyway, don't know.
Yeah. Even if you guys have an idea of what you want, my daughter probably can find graphics and put it together. So you don't have to be the artist. She just needs some ideas that you guys would like, and we'll vet them through this meeting here before we put them on shirts and stuff. But once they do, then it's just another set of products that they can put on various shirts and stuff. Okay. That's all I've got. Andrew, you got anything else? And
no, thanks very much. Unless I've got Robert or Timothy signing in or out, but I think we'll all catch up next month.